I've been building my own kingdom for everyone to see. It exists to keep me safe from harm, and it's intact to glorify me. Nobody helped me build this up. It was me and me alone. I've appointed myself as the king, and I've given myself the throne. But it turns out I'm no ruler, and I have no control. So I have decided to destroy it all. I'm tearing down the walls, kicking down the doors. Everything inside this kingdom is yours. 'Cause what I've made is worthless, and it cannot stand. Come and breathe some life into my empty, cold, dead hands. Down with the fickle king, away with this fantasy. You are the one I need. Death to the kingdom of me. Death to the kingdom of me. I should probably be frightened. This empire's all I know, but it always does more damage than good. I'm afraid it's gotta go. I know that I can't be trusted, 'cause I'm just a man. And if you hadn't given your life for me, a loser would be all that I am. You know they say just follow your heart. I'm afraid that's a load of trash. Your heart will take you down to deep, dark places where you feel like you'll never come back. So I'm coming out of the dark. This facade is I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah. I woke up feeling like it might be a good day.
All right. It is Two Tone Talk, episode 219. Oh my goodness, we are in the heat of the offseason now. And as I said last week, February might be one of the most boring football months, or the most boring football month on the calendar, but that's okay, because your old pal Two Tone Talks here to help you get through even the most boring parts of the offseason. Welcome to Two Tone Talk, episode 219. Want to start off with a quick programming note. As I said on Friday's episode, for the foreseeable future, since we are in the offseason, today's episode will be the only episode for the week. So Monday episodes, for the current time being, will be the only Two Tone Talk episode for the week. Other than if you are a patron and you catch the weekly Wednesday bonus episode, you'll still get that. But the Friday episode will be on hold for a little while until the season starts to get ready to ramp back up. Today is it. So if you're watching today, there'll still be videos on the channel every day. But as far as podcast episodes, today's will be the only one this week. And we're talking about Will Levis. Tell me it's the heart of the offseason without telling me it's the heart of the offseason. Today's podcast episode is about Will Levis. Should the Titans trade him or not? To trade or not to trade? That is the question for the Titans surrounding Will Levis. Now, there are two groups of people out there. There's one group of people that want to trade him. They want to get anything they can get for Will Levis in a trade, and he needs a fresh start, and he ain't doing nothing here, so let's just trade him, get what we can get. Then there are a group of people who seem adamant that they want Will Levis back as the backup quarterback to Cam Ward next year. Because, hey, we saw what happened with Malik Willis. We sent Malik Willis somewhere else, and now not only does he look like one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league, but he may very well be starting somewhere next season. So why risk getting rid of a good quarterback who could be productive for you later on when you could just keep him? And I'm not going to lie, I get that line of thinking. Here's the thing. I think that I have been labeled as a Will Levis hater over the last couple of years, so much so that you may not know this, Will Levis's mother blocked me on X. I don't know what I said that did it, but Mrs. Levis blocked me on X. And I do hate that. I do hate that. But I've been labeled as a Will Levis hater. Here's the thing. I do not believe that Will Levis's ceiling is nearly as high as Cam Ward's, but I will say this. I'll be fair. We did Will Levis no favors by bringing in Brian Callahan. I think the proof is in the pudding. We did Will Levis no favors by bringing in Brian Callahan and that coaching staff to coach him. We did him no favors. We thought we were doing him a solid by bringing in the old QB guru, but I mean, any potential that Will Levis had in Nashville was squandered when Brian Callahan was hired and he brought in the staff that he did. Not to say that Will Levis deserves no blame for his issues, not last season but the season before when he was the starter, but he was certainly not put in a position to succeed by this organization and by the coaching staff that he had. So yes, I do believe there could be potential for Will Levis to go somewhere else like Malik Willis did and make something of his career. I do believe that if you gave Will Levis as a backup to like Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers, I have no doubt Kyle Shanahan could have Will Levis playing pretty darn well. If you sent him to Green Bay, I'm sure Green Bay would do the same thing with him that they did with Malik Willis and have him playing good football. There is some potential with Will Levis to be something. Now, the difference in Will Levis and Malik Willis is that Will Levis has now taken a year off. He got that surgery in, when was that? Late spring? Early summer? It was even later than that. When did Will Levis go get that surgery? I mean, it was late. It was late. So he took pretty much a season off. The last time we saw him, he wasn't exactly playing good football. Now he's taking a year off. I don't know. I don't know if that's would scare teams off. I don't know if that would make teams think, ooh, I don't know if we want to take a risk on a guy like that who has taken a year off, who has, last time we saw him wasn't playing well. Do we want to trade for a guy like that? That's the difference there. But I think that, Will Levis showed enough his rookie season, and I think Will Levis had moments even in that second year. I know, of course, we remember all of the bad things, the turnovers and the meme-worthy plays and such, but, he got benched for Mason Rudolph. But there were some flashes. It's not like he was Nathan Peterman out there. It's not like he was just, it's not like he was just the worst quarterback you've ever seen. So, I do think there could be somebody, because keep in mind, it is a quarterback-needy league right now. There are a lot of teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks this offseason. Just off the top of my head, Miami, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Minnesota. I'm not even going to include Vegas because we know they're drafting Mendoza. But the Jets, that's 5 right off the top of my head. The Colts, I'm just going to assume they're going to get Daniel Jones back, so I'm not even going to include them in the list. But let's see here. There's one division where it's like most of the teams in it are looking for a new quarterback. And I can't remember which one it is. I mean, the Falcons might be looking for somebody to compete with Michael Penix. I'll include them. So that's just 6 teams off the top of my head. Without even, the Browns, who knows what they're going to do. I mean, like, there's a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks, and there's not a lot of quarterbacks to be found. That's why everybody thinks Malik Willis is probably going to get paid good money this offseason because he's one of the better backups in the league. And, there's teams that are desperately needing quarterbacks. And so Malik Willis is probably going to get paid. So if there ever was an offseason to try to trade Will Levis, this is it, because quarterback needy teams, it's a quarterback needy league, and there's not a lot of quarterback supply. If you take Daniel Jones out of this free agent group, there's really not much going on. I mean, Kyler Murray will get traded somewhere. Tua could theoretically wind up somewhere else, but there's a good chunk of teams out there that are going to have to settle for, maybe trading for a guy like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis to give him a second chance. So I think that there will be somebody out there willing to trade for him. If for nothing else, what about a team like the Rams, who are already trying to put together a contingency plan for whenever Matthew Stafford retires? You got to think about teams like that. Think about teams that have older quarterbacks and they want to go ahead and start molding the next guy behind them. I mean, absolutely. You could have a team like that. I will say Will Levis is one of the older, younger quarterbacks in the league, if that makes sense. I mean, as far as young quarterbacks, Will Levis is already 26, 27 years old, and that's not old, but in terms of being a quarterback, if you wanted that guy to come in and be your guy, I mean, he's older than Trevor Lawrence. He's older than some of these guys who came into the league after him, or before him, sorry. So it's just, that there's a lot of different things that goes on there. Amnesia in the Super Chat said, was it all on Levis or was it a horrible head coach? I fully blame Callahan for Levis. He looked so much better with Vrabel, even with a horrible O-line. I don't think, as I said earlier, I'm not going to absolve Will Levis of any blame. I'm not going to say that he deserves no blame. Just like I won't say that Cam Ward didn't deserve blame last year for some of the fumbles and interceptions and some of the things that were plaguing him. Some of that's just stuff he's got to fix. But I don't think there's any denying the fact that, like I said earlier, the Titans did Will Levis no favors by hiring Brian Callahan. Just they gave him no shot to be successful, in my opinion, when they made that hire. So with Will, in terms of a trade, here's my problem. If the options are trade him or keep him as a backup, here's my issue with keeping him as a backup. I highly doubt that Will Levis wants to be with the Tennessee Titans anymore. I mean, you know how that is. I've used this comparison before, but let's say you got a job, you struggle at that job, and then they hire somebody to take your place and give you a demotion. And now you have to work under the guy that came in and replaced you. That sucks. Especially when you could potentially be traded to another office to go work somewhere else. So I don't think Will Levis wants to be with the Titans. I just think there's a reason why he decided to get surgery when he did. And I think it's not just because he was hurt and needed the surgery, but I also think it's because he just knew, man, I don't want to go in here and be a backup to the guy who they brought in to replace me. I mean, they're just these are people, man. These are people with feelings. So I don't think Will Levis is going to want to be here. And so if you don't trade him, I just don't want to have locker room problems. It ain't worth that. It ain't worth having tension in the locker room. I think we're well past the point where the locker room would feel a duty to pick a side and whatnot. But, I mean, just from Will, I mean, it's a new coach. It's a new coaching staff. You just don't want to have bad mojo in the locker room. If you've got Will Levis in there and he's the backup to Cam Ward, he's got a bad attitude because, who knows if that would happen. But it's just like, I just don't even want. I think everybody here just needs a fresh start, you know. So I have always been team trade, and let me tell you a big reason why the Titans, I believe, should trade Will Levis. Because first of all, it's a QB needy league with not a lot of options, like I said earlier. So you could get more in a return for him than you're even thinking, just because teams are so desperate for quarterbacks. But also, you know, I think that the Titans need a veteran backup. They need somebody who's been there, done that. Cam's already young. And when you've got a guy like that, I think you want a backup quarterback who has been around a time or two, who can come in and not be another coach for Cam Ward, but somebody that can come in and give him advice, help him in the quarterback room to work through things. I don't know who you might have in mind, whether it's Marcus, whether it's whoever, but I'm more of I want a veteran quarterback who, you know, can come in and help the young fella improve. And Will Levis is a guy that really doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience. And so, you know, he doesn't have much more experience than Cam does at this point. So I want the veteran quarterback to come in. And be not another coach for Cam Ward, but just another influence on Cam Ward in the quarterback room. I'm reading the chat, see what you guys are saying. Somebody mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, is he even in the league anymore? I don't even know. But yeah, the Titans, I think that's just, you know, when you step back and look at it, I think that's just, for me, I mean, look, if you believe the Tua trade conspiracy, which I don't really believe it's going to happen, but I mean, you know, that would solve the problem. Then you'd have a veteran backup. Somebody said, I think Brandon Allen is better at the end of the season. I don't know about that. But also, this is the other thing I was going to say, and I could not remember what I was going to say, but now I do. The Titans don't have a lot of tradable assets. Think about it. The Titans are in a position where they got to make their roster better. They don't really have any tradable assets for like draft capital. There's really, I mean, unless you believe Tavondre Sweat is an option, which he may be. You know, some people believe he's not a schematic fit in Robert Saleh's system there. So some people think he could be traded, and I suppose that is so. But other than him, there's not a lot of tradable assets. So if you're going to get more draft picks at all, Will Levis is really one of the only options you have, is like guys you could trade and get something in return. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I see people have been asking in the chat, what do you think is the return for Will Levis? What do you think the Titans could get in a trade for Will Levis? At the end of the day, realistically, I think you're looking at late round, sixth rounder, you know, probably. In return for Will Levis, you're probably looking at a sixth, maybe even a seventh. If you can get a fifth for Will Levis, you need to build a monument. If you can get a fifth-round pick for Will Levis, you need to build a monument. Or what about this? Going back to the Tua trade conspiracy. What if Will Levis is a part of that trade? What if the Dolphins say, hey, if you will take Tua and his contract off of our hands, we'll give you a second-round pick, and could you give us Will Levis? What if Will Levis is a part of that trade with Miami? Hey, we'll give you Will Levis if you'll give us Tua and a second-round pick, and we'll take his contract off of your hands. Hey, chestnut checkers. Covering all your bases there if you're the Titans. Again, I don't think the Tua trade thing's actually going to come to fruition, but, you know, I just, as far as what you could get for Will Levis in a trade, I mean, like I said, I think you're looking at late round, very late round, 6th, 7th round, 6, 7. You're looking at a 6th or 7th round pick for Will Levis. But I think, to me, I would just go ahead and do it. I mean, why keep him around if, he probably doesn't want to be here. There are opportunities for him elsewhere, and probably teams willing to give you something for him. And so I think that, the best option is probably to trade him and go get a veteran backup quarterback to be behind Cam Ward and kind of help him grow. That to me is the thing that makes the most sense. Now, if the Titans were to go out there and there's just no market for Will Levis and nobody wants to trade anything for him, which I don't believe that, by the way. I don't think that's the case. You've got too many teams out here that need answers at quarterback. There's no way that nobody is going to be interested in trading for Will Levis. I don't believe that. I think at the very least you're going to have a team that wants to bring in some competition. Like, think about Atlanta. Kirk Cousins left Atlanta. Michael Penix is going to be hurt coming into the season. Who knows when he's going to be ready, but even when he's ready, Michael Penix, he kind of needs a kick in the pants to get him going. So if you're Atlanta, what if we just bring in Will Levis to bring a little competition? I think there will be a market for Will Levis. I don't think anybody's going to be willing to pay that much, but you know what? Think about this, though, folks. Imagine this. If teams are desperate for quarterbacks and they want quarterbacks that could be the next Baker Mayfield, the next Sam Darnold, the guy who failed initially and then went somewhere else and found a home, could a team be willing to overpay in a trade for Will Levis? I mean, who knows? But either way, I think the option is to trade him. I think you need to trade him. I don't really see much upside in keeping him around. I think it could be weird. I think it could be awkward. And so I am going to say the Titans need to trade Will Levis for whatever they can get for him. And hopefully you can find somebody that will just give you more than you could have ever imagined because they're so desperate for an answer at quarterback. And they, with all of the Baker Mayfields and the Sam Darnolds who were failures and then went somewhere else and found success, kind of like Ryan Tannehill did here, then maybe somebody's willing to give you more than you could have ever imagined. But I think the Titans should trade Will Levis. They don't have a lot of tradable assets. Will Levis would be one of the only ones, even if it's for a late-round pick. So that's my speculation there. Just a reminder that this is the only podcast episode this week. There will be videos going up on the channel every day, but this is the only podcast episode for the week. Appreciate you guys joining me. And March is coming, and that means free agency is coming too. Tighten up, everybody. Bye.